I would say the overwhelming majority of people are very resistive and frightened of medication, partly from what happens in the media, partly what happens just, I think, in our guts as a parent. I mean, back to my acceptance story, I didn't want my daughter to have a rod in her spine, right? Even though I knew that she needed to have that. Part of my struggle with saying ADD and putting that label on my son was I didn't want somebody to pull out the prescription pad and have him put a pill in his body. So I think most people are very tentative about the whole thing. And when people express that to me, I try to explain, as we've talked about now, that the medicine seems to be necessary but not sufficient. We're never going to do it just by itself. And I think that that's a mistake. You always need to have these other supports. But to just rely on those other supports without the medicine, the likelihood of us being successful is small. And the fact of the matter is, these are very safe medications. They get a lot of negative press and a lot of negative play, but we don't hear the positive stories very often, but they get that negative press. And with my own son, part of what ultimately helped me is sort of doing a balancing act. On the one hand, I had my fears about the medication and what could happen. On the other hand, I had untreated ADD. And when I weighed those two things against each other, it was a no-brainer. I mean, the possibilities of the medicine doing something that would harm him were extremely remote, or even over the long term. But ADD untreated, if my son wouldn't have been treated, he would have wound up in a very ugly place. As opposed to being a successful 35-year-old man, I think he would have been much more prone to develop a substance abuse problem, underachieve, maybe not make it through college, wind up with the wrong crowd, be in the wrong place at the wrong time, take risks in his life that he shouldn't have. And that image, to me, overweighed the thought of the medication. And if you do the medicine systematically, like I described, you find really the right dose and you monitor it regularly, it's very safe. In the end, we want to get people up here, and people start here. And as you climb up that ladder, ultimately you want to be up here where you're really got good attention. And when people have inadequate dose, there's sort of a place right here where you have enough of the medicine to be more aware, but not sufficient yet to be able to do anything about it. And in that place, people can feel uncomfortable. And it's oftentimes misinterpret the edginess and the irritability. It would be like me putting on my glasses prescription from 15 years ago. And if I went through the day like this, I would bounce against the walls. I'd have a muscle tension headache. I'd feel irritable and edgy. In some ways, it would be better to just be like this, because now I'm just flat out blind and I don't have to have expectations of what I could do. And I think that happens for lots of people when they get subtherapeutic doses of the medicine, and doctors who really don't understand the medicine and don't have systematic procedures wind up sort of a trial and error. Try this one or try this next one. Is that one good? Is this one good? And you're using the blind, the person with ADD, to lead the blind, the doctor who doesn't really understand. And in our circumstance, we've systematized all of that in these medication trial tests so that when you walk out of our office and you're going to finally start using it, we at least know you're in the right ballpark. And then we're going to provide the supports for all the nuances that you alluded to before of the adjustment phase that is required. And as kids grow, they need to have the medicine adjusted. As life expectations go up, it might require some adjustment there as well.